Today is another, hopefully we'll get through today. I have a very special guest with me today. I have with me Pastor Mark Ajiji, who is also a security specialist, as well as a pastor and a very strong mentor, especially for youths in such a time as this. Now, we've been talking about break the pattern now for almost a month, and we're way into the month of June on this. You've heard from several guest speakers. We had from Grace Pinoza. We've had from Emmanuel Bemana, better known as 50. We had from Pastor Ish. Today you hear from Pastor Mark. And we have a very exciting package for you. So he's already here in the house because today he's not connecting, he's here live. So it's going to make it so much easier for us to flow. So I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode because it promises to be very engaging. So young ladies, young men, I want you to buckle up. Moms, dads, buckle up because this is also for you. Husbands, wives, children, break the pattern is meant for you. So Pastor Mark is already in the house. Pastor Mark, nice to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor to be here, and welcome everybody.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've had you here.
That's true.
I mean, when we first started Ex-Hale Online, you're one of our early guests, and hopefully, by the grace of God, we'll have more of you here.
That's right.
So I'm sure you've been following for a while now. We've been talking about breaking the pattern and those kind of situations that have been reoccurring, but we're specifying on unhealthy patterns. Now, I want to hear from you in your own way. What when we say break the pattern, what comes to your mind? First things first.
Okay, thank you very much once more. Welcome everybody. It's an honor to be here. When we say the word break the pattern, first things first that comes to my mind is that there's a mistake somewhere. There's an anomaly somewhere that needs to be corrected. Right? And until it is corrected, we will not be able to move past where we are.
Awesome.
All right? So it's like you are in a loop, and every time you find yourself in a place where there is a negative pattern, whether it is behavior, whether it is thinking, whether it is relationships or habits, it just means that there is something negative that needs to be corrected.
Yes.
That's what comes to my mind when I hear break the pattern. Thank you.
All right. Now, of course, as a person who has journeyed in life, you must have had several encounters of your own, as well as you must have, as a pastor, definitely. Yes. I'm sure you have engaged many youths. What are those patterns that you see these days that, or a pattern maybe you have struggled with over time, but you found yourself, and how did you break that pattern? What's that classic example for you? Okay,
so there are a lot of unhealthy patterns is scattered all around. You see it every single day. All you need to do is to just take a walk down the street. You will see a lot of unhealthy patterns displaying itself in the glaring, part of the day, every day. There are quite a number. Where do we start from? Is it the issue of identity, where a lot of people, especially young people, are lost in this world of drama? They're lost in the world of trends. They're lost in the world of social media. So there's the question of identity. Then there's also the question of ignorance. A lot of people are ignorant of who they are and what they're capable of. Then the patterns are so many, but narrowing it down to me as a person. Growing up, I've had, like every other person, we've had peer pressures. People who have tried to influence you to do things that are wrong. So the common ones in my day growing up was drinking. Drink alcohol, liquor now. If you are not a drunk, or if you don't take alcohol, you are not amongst the King Kongs. You are not amongst the happening guys. So drinking was a major issue for us. Then smoking too. I remember a friend of mine trying to force me you know, he wrapped something on a piece of paper. He wrapped it and said, you know, just try and drag it. Just drag it. I did it once and I coughed for 30 minutes and I said, no, this thing is not for me. This thing is not for me. And then that was the first and the last time I'd attempted it. Then another trend that was very, very common growing up as a young, especially a teenager into my early 20s, was the issue of womanizing. It's something that has been there for as long as possible. The issue of humanizing, you find that a lot of young men are trapped in that circle. So if you know how to toast a girl, you are the King Kong. If you don't know how to toast a girl, you don't know what you're doing. So there was a lot of competition. In fact, there were a lot of bets in my circle at the time. You know, a group of boys would come together and then bet, let's see who will get that girl. Let's see who will get that girl. We will literally bet with money and see who at the end of the day the girl will agree to date him or even in some cases go as far as sleeping with him. Yeah, so those were some of the commonly held patterns that was very common in my day.
And I think that those patterns seem to be reoccurring patterns that most adolescents tend to have gotten to, because I know that, yes, for us as young, for guys, probably to be the pressure of other guys trying to get you to try substance, to try women. And for us as ladies, more or less, yes, there was the pressure of substance, but then of course that substance or trying to date a guy, you know, and you know, so sex again was also one of those trending unhealthy patterns that most teenagers and it's so sad that in this generation, I know that we were having this conversation earlier on with a few others where we noticed that sex has become so out there, you know, so cheap that you could buy it just you don't even have to buy it. I mean, it's even offered to you.
It's the cheapest commodity on the street now.
So, and it's so unfortunate. So, now, what do you think, as someone who has counseled a lot of youths and a lot of young men, and we're not just saying youths, because when we say youths, what is the age range of youths? Of course, we're talking from teenagers down to almost 50s, 60s, because I mean, as long as you have your agileness, you're a youth. But what are those? Why do you think that most young adults and find themselves, you know, trapped in this facade and patterns of, you know, unhealthy patterns? Because I mean, it's becoming worse by every generation. You know, the need to want to belong, the need to want to be part of that
what is
clique,
trending,
and you know, and all that. Now, why do you think that most youths find it so pressurizing, you know, to be a part of such unhealthy patterns?
First things first, I'll say that everybody needs to understand that it was created. There were people that sat down many years ago, sometimes even decades ago, sat down, created the world that we are experiencing today. So this thing is not new. Yes, there were people that sat down, created it, came up with an agenda, and they ran with it religiously, so much so that we found ourselves here. Once upon a time, there are certain things you cannot just think of doing it, where morals was very high. But right now, our morality, we've thrown it into the wind, we've thrown it out of the window, and almost it's as if anything goes. Like that phrase they say in using democracy, they say freedom of speech. It's like freedom of life. I can do anything I want to do and get away with it. So a lot of people have to realize that this thing was created. And if it is created, then the moment you realize that this thing is created, it can be broken. Yes. So let's understand that it's created, first things first, that the sex-crazed world that we're experiencing today, some group of people sat down and created it. So if you realize that it's created people created it, you can break it. So sex is very rampant here. Right? Substance abuse is very rampant. Substance abuse, you can call it, they go by all kinds of names. I cannot begin to mention the names. Social identity crisis. What is trending? People have, you know, this innate and craving desire to just jump on what is trending. And it is sad because not everything that is trending is meant for you. It's just like not everybody that wears clothes will fit on your body. Not every clothes will fit on your body, right? So a lot of things we have to realize that not everything that is trending is meant for you and I. And I go back to the identity question. Number one, if you find yourself in that capacity or in that rut that you're struggling to come out of something that you feel stuck in, you have to realize, number one, that you have to recognize the pattern. Yeah. When you recognize the pattern, you have to recognize and ask yourself, when does this happen? And when it happens, what triggers it? I'm telling you, there's always a trigger. When it comes to patterns, there are always triggers. Something leads to something. They call it cause and effect. For every effect, there is a cause. And how do I feel before, during, and after this pattern? Right? You have to realize that you recognize it, and that's where self-awareness comes in. Right? Self-awareness. So you have to recognize where it's coming from. Number two, you have to understand the root cause of it. Wow. The root cause. Everything started somewhere. I was 13 years old and I was introduced into a very negative pattern. It took me close to 10 years to get out of it. At 13. Impressionable age. And you have to understand that there is a root cause. So if you have to get to the root of it, because many unhealthy patterns are coping mechanisms that are learned behaviors. Because everything you and I struggle with, you learned it. You came into this world empty. You learned it. And you learned it from earlier experiences. Yeah. So you have to understand and consider journaling or therapy or deep reflection to understand and uncover where this thing is coming from. And then once that is done, the next thing is you have to define it. You have to have a clear goal. How do I get out of this? Wow. What do I do instead of this pattern? Because this is where alternatives comes in. You have to have a clear goal. You have to have an end. You have to begin to feel how you would look at yourself and feel how you would feel when you are out of this pattern. Wow. Yes. And that's where the clear goal comes from. So the clear goal, you would have to ask yourself, what do I do instead of this? Because to be able to replace any pattern, it has to be replaced. Yes. Right? Yeah. For you to be able to get out of any pattern, you have to replace, because there's no vacuum anywhere. Word. There's no vacuum anywhere. You have to be specific and say, I want to respond as calmly as possible to all of your patterns, because it's not a death sentence. Don't beat yourself too hard. There are people who have had very traumatic experiences, who have been hard on addictions and what have you, and I'm telling you, they got out of it. Yeah. Right? So you can get out of it. It is possible to get out of it. Yeah. As soon as you do that, then you replace and don't just remove. You replace it, the negative with the positive. For every negative, there's a positive. Yes. So you have to replace it and don't just remove it. That is where the real work, that is where the rubber hits the road. Yeah. I'll pause here. Wow. I can feel the heat from here. And I, the key thing that I want people to understand about breaking habits is, first things first. I know that Pastor Ish also mentioned something like that. 50 also mentioned something like that. First things first, you have to replace it with something. Yeah. If something else has been the way that you know it to be, what are you going to, okay, for instance, you're smoking and you know that you want to stop smoking. I remember back then, somebody would, if you want to stop smoking, try taking coffee every time that urge for nicotine comes in, or for me, just get a gum. Yes, and chew that gum until, but then ultimately those are just,
things that people would advise. But I mean, as believers, those of us that are Christians would always say, renew it.
Yes.
Renew your mind.
That's
there's
right.
something, there's an information that you've taken that needs to be uninstalled.
Yes.
And something needs to be reprogrammed.
Absolutely.
So renew your mind with the Word of God. And the Word of God will consistently fight that urge to want to indulge in some of those practices, because some of the practices that I see this generation trending in, that we celebrate as trends, which is the next question I would like to ask you, because I see that social media has played a very major role in the reinforcing of patterns.
Absolutely.
And some of the things we see trending. Now, how do you advise somebody who is trying to, focus on a certain way of life, but social media is telling you, no, this is the best way to go about it. As a youth, we were sharing, I can't remember who we're sharing with, and we're talking about ladies, at a time saying, once upon a time, oh, I'm a virgin. And being a virgin was such a good thing.
Exactly.
It was such a sacred thing. And it was, something that was of pride, so that when you say you've lost your virginity, it was almost like a thing of shame.
Yes.
But now, reverse is the case. I mean, it's almost a shame if you are still a virgin, because out there, what social media has painted is that, look, being a virgin is so backward. You're not going with the new school trend. You're not moving with time. You're still way behind. So how would you, in your way, how could somebody stay true to their beliefs, true to who they really are, with the pressure that society, social media, and, the media waves generally are bringing out?
First things first, thank you very much for that question. First things first, people need to understand that whatever is going on the social media space is not real.
Yes.
Right? It's not real. It's a virtual world. And because the virtual world is not real, right? It's pretty much like what happens in Nollywood and Hollywood. In the film world. They call it make-believe. Right?
Yeah.
They call it make-believe. They are just trying to make this thing look as real as it can be. But in reality, it's not real. So it's the same thing with social media. You have to understand that social media is created and is not real. It is just a virtual world. It doesn't exist.
Yes.
So whatever you see on your screens when you're scrolling, it is not real. That's first. Then the second thing you have to understand about social media is that it is, if you understand a little bit of subliminal messaging, right? Where you can keep pushing messages, certain narratives, they keep pushing it gradually until it generally becomes acceptable.
Yeah.
That is what is going on with social media. And if you understand that there are subliminal messages that are putting you under pressure to look for likes and comments, to look for cheap dopamine, that feel-good feeling, that I have 200,000 likes over my post.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Right? It is not real. So understand that that world is not real. Once you understand that the social media world is virtual and is not real, anybody, we are in front of you right now. I'm telling you, there are 1,001 things that went behind the scenes before this camera came on.
Yes.
So anything you see on social media is what the person or persons want you to see.
Word.
They only focus the camera on the parts that they want you to see. But there are 1,001 activities that is going on around us right now that everybody that is watching is not seeing.
True.
So when you understand that social media space is as unreal as it is, then you would learn to better respond positively.
Wow.
Then the second thing is you have to realize that your identity is not dependent on somebody else's identity.
Oh, yes.
The definition of yourself is not in any way, shape, or form dependent on somebody else's definition. If not, I used to say, if you don't know who you are, the world will define you for you and you will take on their definition and run with it.
Wow.
So you need to understand and ask yourself, who are you? Why are you here? What is your assignment? What is that thing that you are born to do? The day you realize what you're born to do, you're the most dangerous person on the face of the earth.
That's true.
Because nobody will dare in any way interfere with your own mission, with your own assignment. So you have to understand who you are, and then you have to understand why you are here. Once you do that, and for any reason you find yourself stuck in an unhealthy pattern, then understand that you have to start small.
Wow.
Nothing goes overnight.
Nothing goes overnight.
You have to start small, but be consistent.
That's the key word.
Start small, but be consistent. Focus on micro changes that feel doable. They feel doable. Focus on those little things. And once you start small and you're consistent, you will recognize and you would see visible and tangible progress. Then you have to create accountability. This is the hardest part, because we live in a world where people don't trust people
at all.
Right? Look for that one person that you can depend on, that can be accountable to you, that can be completely vulnerable with the person and not feel ashamed, not feel judged. Just create an accountability system that helps you to track your progress. Right? And once you have created that, then be kind to yourself, because you will always miss it.
That's right.
You will always miss it.
That's right.
So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. You will always miss it. From time to time, you experience bumps here and there, but don't be hard on yourself. When you miss it, pick yourself, dust yourself up, and keep going. But because the most important thing is not what you do now, is what you do over time.
Yes.
It is the compounding effect of what you do over time that will tell at the tail end of your journey.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's profound. And I hope that you guys are taking notes, because this is a lecture on its own. But I know one of the key things I always tell people whenever you are trying to make that change, especially when it comes to trying to stay true to yourself, is first and foremost, look within. Look within. Everything starts from inside. There is values that have been stored, like we said. What are some of how do we learn patterns? Sometimes it comes from upbringing, environment, but there are certain things that you have held true to. I mean, for a lady, how do you stand and look at a group of friends or a guy who is pressuring you and saying, if you love me, sleep with me, and you have told yourself, I do not want to have sex until I'm married, but because it's a trend you see and you want to stay true, but you also don't want to feel out of place, look at your truth and tell yourself, look, I've held on to this principle for so long. It's helped me. It's kept me going, and I don't need another person, to tell me that what I am doing for myself is not right. Except if you know that what you're doing to yourself is wrong. But if you know what you're doing for yourself is a good thing, please stick to it. Be strong enough to look at people and tell people, you know what, that's your truth, that's your reality, that's not me. I don't have to stand and show myself naked on social media before I get 200 likes, 300 likes. I can say my truth like I'm doing now, and I'll still get my likes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just be who you are. That's be true to you. And at this moment, before we continue, I just want to say a big shout out to Caleb Khalil. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I also see Louis Amechi Anani, thank you so much. Thank you, 50. We see you. Thank you, 50. We see Pastor Ish. Thank you. Thank you guys so much also for joining us. And I see the latest bride, Abano. Nice to see you. And my love to the hubby, I know the honeymoon is sweet. One person that I hope to bring on this show very, very soon, and I know that God will give us the opportunity. So we're almost out of time. We just have a few minutes to go. But I want you to, what are those mindsets or behaviors that you as a person had to unlearn? Because they will tell you, if you want to learn something, you have to unlearn something to relearn. Exactly. And most people don't want to go through that process of unlearning. They just want to, okay, I learned, I want to add to what I've learned, and sometimes what you've learned may not be that true thing, so sometimes you have to uninstall, you have to delete, you have to wipe out factory default setting, back to setting, just so that you can relearn. So what are some of those habits for you as a person that you went through as a young man that you had to tell yourself, you know what, no, this was a lie? I remember back then I was privileged to listen to one of your spoken words. By the way, he's a phenomenal spoken words artist, and I remember one of the popular spoken words, they lied to us. These are things that were told over the years, but then as one grew, you got to discover that's not true.
Exactly.
So what are some of those things that you discovered not true, but you had to now relearn, and how are you adjusting to this new pattern of learning for you?
Well, thank you very much. It came from a place of dissatisfaction when I realized that I wasn't getting the kind of results that I really wanted to get. I wasn't getting the desired goals or the results that I really wanted to get. So I started asking questions. So I came across a quote in a book. And the quote says, "The illiterate of the future is not the one who cannot read and write.
Wow.
But not one who can learn, unlearn, and relearn." That is the illiterate of the future. The illiterate of the future is not somebody who cannot read and write. I can tell you that there are a lot of quote and unquote academically illiterate persons out there, but they are some of the most successful individuals this world has ever seen. As a matter of fact, is on record. Virtually almost the first 10 billionaires in this world currently did not go through
the four walls of formal education.
Of a classroom. So I had to start asking questions, and I realized, like you said, they lied to us. It's either we're told half truths or we were told outright lies. From the very beginning, because maybe they thought at their end, because that's all they know, at their end they maybe thought that they cannot relate this information to us the way it was, the truth as it was at the time. So they felt maybe watering it down or using or lying to us was what was going to make us grow. But by the time we realized that these things were not, for instance, I cannot, I'm live now, everybody, my dad never sat me down in my own world to teach me anything about sex. Everything I learned about sex, I learned it from the streets. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
But that was an education that I should have gotten at home.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I would be better guided.
Yeah.
Right? I would be better equipped for the world I was going into. So one of the things for me that has worked tremendously well for me was when I became a child of God, when I gave my life to Christ. And I found the scripture that says, do not be conformed to the standards of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I knew that my mind became my greatest asset. My mind became my greatest battleground. And I put my mind as the center and the focus of my growth and evolution and transformation in life. My mind became my number one priority. So I started taking note of the things I feed my mind on. I started taking note of the things I expose my eyes to. I started taking note of the things I heard. And I started taking note of the environment I was exposed to, because those things have a way of affecting you negatively or positively.
Wow.
So those were the ways that, for me, scripture, the Bible to be precise, did the job for me when I realized that with the word of God, there is no addiction, there is no pattern, there is nothing that cannot be broken, because God's word said so. And I started applying some of those principles, and I can tell you that I am a testimony, I am a witness to say the least. There's nothing that God cannot do. If you can just believe him, if you can trust him, and if you can do the things that are written in the holy book, the Bible. Thank you.
Wow. That's what you get when you're talking to pastors. They just have to chip it in there. And I mean, our time is fast spent, but there's just so much I would love to ask, but I'm sure we'll have another opportunity. But I just two questions, if you could answer them in a minute each.
Okay.
I know we're already up on time, but what simple mindset shift or daily action would you recommend for somebody who's trying to break an unhealthy pattern today?
Okay. Well, there are a number of things you can do. Number one, reinforce with new environment and routine. Just get out of the old and start something new. Take a walk, go hiking, go jogging. Make sure that you replace it with that unhealthy pattern. After you've recognized it, after you have done all that needs to be done, after you've realized the root cause of it, just make sure that you reinforce with environment and routine. In other words, structure your surroundings to support the new pattern. Structure it. What kind of world would you want to live in? Right? So structure your environment with it. And secondly, seek help and support when needed.
Obviously.
Seek help and support when needed, because a lot of times we find ourselves in this rut and in this where we are stuck. We feel stuck. We don't feel there's a way out, but there's always a way out. There are professionals who are trained to do this thing. There are people who are trained to do it. Seek help, because help is always available. But for a lot of us, because of ignorance and limiting beliefs, we put ourselves in a corner that we feel there's no hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mark. And you know, again, like I always say, people find, he just said something very key. People shy away from getting help because, you know, often maybe places they've gone to either go to seek counsel or open up to, they've found one form of betrayal or the other. But well, we are here at Ex-Hale Online to let you know that you could just slide into my DM and slide into Pastor Mark's DM and then please.
No, slide into her DM, please.
Well, slide into our DMs. We're here to be that shoulder where you can just talk to us and we will give you the necessary help that you need. And please, do not hold yourself back from finding help, because like I always say, if the person who committed suicide had found that one person and they had opened up to say, look, I need help, you know, that person would still be alive today. Now, in 5 seconds, Pastor Mark, if you could speak to your younger version of you, or your younger self, what would you tell that person to break something?
The younger self of me, I would say, dare more, take more risks, and keep moving, right? Dare more, take more risks, and keep moving, because the fastest way to succeed is to double your failure rate. So double your failure rate, learn as fast as you can, and get out of that space so that you can be on your path to destiny and the future.
Says the lyrical master. So you've heard it all. Thank you so much, Pastor Mark. It's been an amazing 30 minutes plus with you. And I just feel bad that I had to limit my time to 30 minutes as to the 1 hour, because in that 1 hour I would have been able to run my questions through. But I want to believe that somebody out there received some form of help, and you are now on your pathway to finding solution on how to break that unhealthy pattern. Remember, there's nothing too difficult that you cannot decide to break, change, or stop if you make up your mind to, like we said, renew your mind. What information about that thing do you really know? If you've told yourself that, well, smoking also makes me feel relaxed, calm, well, the other side of it is to remind yourself that it can also take your life at a very young age, and
very
more
true.
so, you know, you're better than this. So I'm here to let you know that unhealthy pattern, you are better than it. And if you put your mind to it, you can break it today. So again, please slide into our DM and we'll help you pass that test and go through that journey with help. Thank you so much, Pastor Mark. It's been amazing. Thank you everyone for this wonderful 30 minutes. For everyone who liked, share, please like and share this one, because a lot of people need to hear this. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. I'll see you again on Wednesday by 5:30, and I will tell you what's coming up next, because Ex-Hale is going live, not online, but live very soon in the city. Soon to be disclosed. See you guys soon. Much love and have a blessed week ahead.
Bye.